Rue stands with his hand behind his back, holding a small sword, as the older explorer continues to scrutinize him from a distance. The explorer, showing his watch, angrily asks if Rue is mocking him, stating he was timing it. With a bead of sweat on his temple, Rue internally despairs, wondering what excuse he could offer for a monster vanishing earlier than scheduled and whether the explorer would even believe him. Convinced Rue is lying, the older explorer menacingly approaches, his expression indicating he wouldn't be easily placated. Rue, feigning innocence with a smile, claims he just arrived and suggests they leave quickly since the dungeon is about to close. Unconvinced, the explorer delivers a brutal punch to Rue's face, causing blood to spray from the impact. Standing over the downed Rue, the explorer angrily brandishes a dagger, insisting he witnessed the monster's demise 10 minutes prior. With the dagger held threateningly, the explorer gives Rue a final ultimatum to explain himself. Suddenly, the explorer's eyes widen in pain and surprise as he lets out a grunt. Rue, now grim, has driven his own bloody dagger into the explorer's torso, eliciting a pained, "You bastard," from him. Following up, Rue lands a swift, forceful punch to the explorer's jaw. Now standing over the defeated explorer, Rue is surrounded by dark, swirling energy, his bloody dagger still embedded in the man's abdomen. A close-up reveals the dagger, its hilt adorned with glowing red eye, plunged deep into the explorer as crimson energy radiates outward. With blood on his face and glowing red eyes, Rue coldly tells the fallen explorer, "I gave you the chance to turn back." The defeated explorer lies on the cavern floor, Rue's boots firmly planted near his head. A close-up reveals the explorer's terrified eyes, tears and sweat mingling as he lies defeated. As Rue walks away into the darkness, the explorer wonders if the rumor about him was true. Later, Rue is seen washing blood from his hands under a running faucet in a sink. Standing in his modern bathroom, he continues to cleanse his hands at the basin. He looks up, startled at his reflection in the mirror, with blood still visible on his face. His crimson eyes glare intensely back at him, the word murderer echoing in his mind. A crazed, wide-eyed grin spreads across Rue's face as his reflection appears in a cracking mirror. He violently punches the mirror, shattering it completely. Looking down with a bead of sweat, Rue mutters, "A murderer, huh?" A bloody sink drain swirls as Tex explains that in a world where law is unclear, murder isn't unusual. Wiping his bloodied hand with a cloth, Rue states that killing is still killing, and he won't make excuses. His boot nudges a bucket on the tiled floor as he declares, with a determined look and an outstretched hand toward the bloodied water, that he won't let anyone get in his way. 1 month later, Rue pushes a cart laden with glowing blue crystals away from a swirling dungeon portal in a rocky cavern. A muscular man waves enthusiastically, calling out that Rue took long enough and he thought Rue got trapped in there. Rue calmly explains he twisted his ankle a bit, which delayed him. Another young explorer, with a bright smile, cheerfully tells Rue to be careful, adding that if he gets hurt, they're the ones in trouble. He then asks if Rue could hand over the collected items. Rue, smiling pleasantly with his eyes closed, agrees, saying, "Yeah, since he's in the tent." As Rue walks away, pushing the cart, one explorer questions letting Big Bro go alone since they haven't even counted everything. However, another reassures him that it's fine, stating Rue is a good guy who is honest to a fault and would never embezzle, adding that people line up to work with him for chance. The muscular explorer sternly advises the others to stop bothering Rue, mentioning that even Buddha only forgives 3 times. Another explorer scoffs, doubting Rue would get angry, then mentions hearing he's Shining Light's older brother, which surprises his companion. They express disbelief, reasoning that if it were true, he wouldn't work in such a place for little pay. One wonders if something happened to Shining Light, since her name hasn't been heard recently as Rue wheels his cart away. Later, Rue, with silver hair and a black hoodie, walks along a sunlit street, carrying a grocery bag. He appears somewhat weary or pensive as he continues down the sidewalk. Looking over his shoulder, Rue asks how long his follower intends to trail him. Yusuk, hiding behind a sign, internally insists he's perfectly concealed, and that Rue must be talking to someone else. Suddenly, Rue appears beside Yusuk, placing a hand on his shoulder and stating, I'm talking to you. Yasukaji lets out a startled cry, his eyes wide with shock at being discovered. A sharp impact is shown on the back of Yasukaji's head, indicating he's been struck. A chibi looks on with a blank expression as a chibi Yasukaji crouches, holding a steaming bun on his head. Ryu, unimpressed, asks Yasukaji how he knew he was there, sarcastically questioning his hiding abilities and telling him to stop. Yasukaji desperately pleads for just one chance, internally lamenting his tiring heart and considering giving up. Ryu warns him that he won't hold back if the pursuit continues. As Ryu walks away with his groceries, a startled Yasukaji continues to follow him around a corner. Yasukaji then explains to Ryu that he's recently come to the realization that he's actually somewhat useful. Ryu, with a dismissive glance, questions what Yasuke could possibly do, stating he sees no value in him. Yasukaji offers his services in selling items. With his red eyes glinting, Ryu presses an elevator button and directly accuses Yasukaji of investigating his affairs. A flustered Yasukaji vehemently denies the accusation, claiming he only happened to notice Ryu selling items by pure chance. He confidently asserts that he possesses connections, promises not to pry unnecessarily, and insists he will undoubtedly be of use to Ryu. Ryu reflects internally that while Yasukaji lacks strength, his connections offer sufficient value, and continuing to sell items alone risks exposure, making a partnership potentially beneficial. Turning slightly, Ryu thoughtfully utters, "You," as he seriously considers Yasukaji's persistent offer. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocks the alleyway, startling both Ryu and Yasukaji. They immediately sprint down a nearby staircase, with Ryu exclaiming, "Isn't this supposed to be a safe zone? Why the explosion?" Looking up, Ryu and Yasukaji spot two figures standing on the rooftop of a nearby building amidst rising smoke. A close-up reveals one of the figures to be a stern-looking man with dark, slick-back hair and a long brown coat. The other figure, clad in a white-eared hooded cape and a distinctive mask, leaps gracefully across the cityscape toward the man in the brown coat. The masked individual, identified as 7 Stars Divine Right, smirks and remarks, "I didn't expect to catch such a big fish." The man in the brown coat swiftly retaliates, launching a powerful blast of blue energy toward the approaching masked figure. The masked figure is momentarily caught in the blue energy attack, a slight grimace appearing on their face. Recovering quickly, the masked figure comments, "Oh my, you're quick with your hands. Why don't we have a little chat? Aren't you curious about who I really am, where I come from, and what my goals are?" The man in the brown coat looks down thoughtfully, silently considering the masked figure's proposition. The masked figure dismisses his curiosity, claiming to be merely a flashy villain who expects cooperation after their dramatic entrance. In response, the man in the brown coat gestures, causing a small vortex of blue energy to form on the ground before him. He then materializes a large, ornate sword crackling with blue energy, declaring he'll cooperate plenty after he eliminates his opponent. A focus view shows his firm grip on the hilt of the powerfully glowing blue sword. The man in the brown coat swings his radiant blue sword, acknowledging his adversary's ruthlessness. As expected, a divine right. The masked figure, conjuring a swirling red-orange orb of energy in their bandaged hand, retorts that his words are harsh, even if they are coming from a villain. Holding the fiery sphere, the masked individual questions if they must indeed proceed with this confrontation. Addressing divine right, the man in the brown coat charges forward, his blue energy-infused sword aimed directly at the masked figure. With a confident smirk, the masked figure hurls a swirling red-orange energy disk at their advancing foe. The man in the brown coat expertly parries the incoming fiery projectile with a swift movement of his glowing blue sword. A massive explosion erupts where the fiery disk meets the blue sword, sending the masked figure flying backward. The man in the brown coat's crystalline blue sword hums with concentrated energy. With a smirk, the masked figure remarks, "How scary." As expected, a divine right, so ruthless. As the sword tip nears, the glowing blue blade slices through the air just inches from a masked figure's startled eyes. He brings the sword down in a powerful arc, but the masked adversary nimbly evades a blow. The very tip of the blade nicks the masked figure's gloved hand, drawing a single drop of blood. As the masked individual leaps back, the man in the brown coat readies his weapon for another assault. The masked figure, now with a fresh scratch on their cheek, touches their chin and muses, "Dual blades, huh? Lucky me." Now wielding two identical energy swords, the man in the brown coat coolly asks, "Is that so? Good for you." An excited, almost manic grin spreads across the masked figure's face as they exclaim, "What should I do?" I'm getting hyped up. From below, Rue and Yasukaji watch as the masked figure and the man in the brown coat clash in midair, blue energy trails marking the man's sword strikes. Yasukaji abruptly tries to dash off, but Rue, surprised, catches his arm to stop him. Holding Yasukaji back, Rue demands to know what he's planning, while Yasukaji insists he must go help his brother. With a stern expression, Rue questions Yasukaji's logic, stating that even if he bravely rushes in, he'll just get killed. Rue then advises that if Yasukaji truly cares about his brother, he should prioritize his own safety. Internally, Rue wonders if the guy in the white robe is going toe-to-toe with 7-star strongest leader, Shun Kazami. Rue raises his phone to capture a clear image of the masked figure as they leap in the distance. Acknowledging that staying hidden is the smarter move, Rue hears Yasukaji anxiously question if they are really just going to stand there and watch. Turning away with his grocery bag, Rue states he's going to do what he can, prompting Yasukaji to ask where he is going. Rue and Yasukaji are now in a brightly lit hallway, with Rue reaching for the doorknob of a nearby room. Rue tells Yasukaji he'll think about his proposal and will contact him once he has an answer, then dismisses him with a later. Flustered, Yasukaji, with a bead of sweat, exclaims, "Wait a second!" He tries to open the door Rue just closed, but appears to be locked, indicated by the rattling sound effect. A dejected chibi Yasukaji sits on the floor under a spotlight, muttering, "Ouch! I thought I'd get in too." Later, Rue is at his computer in a dimly lit room, analyzing the image of the masked figure. A progress bar on one screen shows 50%. The circular progress bar now displays 100%. The enhanced image clearly shows a masked figure leaping away from Kazami-shun, who is wielding his dual energy swords. Rue stares intently at his monitor, his red eyes focus on the analyzed image. His eyes widen slightly as he notices a small, distinct mark on the glove of the masked figure, prompting an internal realization. Rue is on the phone, his expression serious, saying, "Hello, check out the mark I just sent you." 30 minutes later, Rue's phone buzzes on the wooden desk, indicating an incoming call. Holding the phone to his ear, Rue inquires, "Did you find anything?" The voice on the other end replies, "I wouldn't be calling if I didn't." A chib impatiently urges, "Just get to the point already." The caller explains, "Seriously, that's a rank explorer, Kamori-amon. The design is based on his pet cat." Rue, looking surprised, questions, "Dead?" "You're saying dead, not fallen in the line of duty." When he learns Amon was confirmed deceased last August, the voice clarifies, "Exactly. He wasn't killed in the dungeon. He died near the entrance to an A-rank dungeon," showing a gruesome image of Amon's bloody body and adding, "Apparently, the body was in a horrifying state, but the culprit still hasn't been identified." While looking at a computer screen, Rue asks, "Where did you see that crest?" The caller responds, "Why are you asking something like that?" The caller warns, "I don't know where you saw it, but if you spot that kind of symbol, stay far away," as an image of a cat in a suit with red eyes appears. The caller adds, "If I'm not mistaken, that mark means it's a plunder." Standing by his window, Rue asks into the phone, "Spoils of war? What's that supposed to mean?" The caller retorts, "Do you really not get it, or are you just pretending not to?" Rue's slippered foot is shown as he slides open his balcony door with a soft sound. Now on the balcony, still on the phone and looking out at the cityscape where the battle took place, Rue asks, "Did he run?" The caller explains it as a symbol of victory, and Rue, still on the phone, inquires if they have any leads on them. On the other end, a man with blue hair lounging on a sofa tells the woman with red hair to ask him nicely for the information. A chibi version of the blue-haired man, still on the phone, then says, "All right then, please do." After a moment of silence, He elaborates that stealing someone else's crest and keeping it as a trophy is lame, adding that, as far as he knows, the only ones doing it are a group called Crews. The man continues, revealing that the individual in the footage is even more shrouded in mystery than Cruz' boss, and all they know is that he's referred to as Z. The red-haired woman, now fully visible, questions him about Cruz, referring to them as that weird organization. The blue-haired man, looking slightly surprised, asks if she has heard of them. She places her phone down, as she states that Nana mentioned them once. He acknowledges this, explaining that Cruz is an international group with a complex structure and, importantly, they are pretty crazy but possess strong unity. He then sternly warns her not to investigate them, adding that someone like before who'd protect her isn't around anymore. Rue, on the phone, sternly asks, "How much do you know?" adding, "Don't lie to me." The blue-haired man reveals that word about Nana has already spread some circles and will probably go public soon, prompting Rue to ask where he heard that. A black-gloved hand places a Daisy business card beside Rue's phone, which displays the time to park. The man explains it's the Daisy Trading Company, clarifying that while they deal in information, they aren't shady enough to sell this kind of intel, and he managed to get the chairman to reveal the details. He acknowledges Rue's understanding and then requests that Rue continue gathering intel on the trophy collector, just enough to avoid getting hurt, before asking about Rue's future plans. Standing before a wall adorned with photos, including one of Nana, Rue states that if word about Nana spreads, he's moving. The caller remarks on Rue's surprising calmness. Rue ends the call, his finger hovering over the phone screen as he wonders, "But who?" Gazing at a framed photograph of a smiling Nana, Rue reflects that he began preparing the moment he suspected Kuji might have leaked Nana's death, admitting he didn't expect the association to cover up so thoroughly. Holding Nana's picture, he thinks with a serious expression that he's just glad they weren't using her for profit. The scene transitions to an exterior shot of a modern building under bright sunlight. In the training hall, Rue grits his teeth as he absorbs a powerful punch to the face from a training robot. He braces himself, his red eyes focused as another red-gloved robotic fist speeds toward him. Rue ducks under a sweeping kick from a training robot, the motion blurred with speed. He then weaves between two training robots, narrowly avoiding their coordinated attacks. Facing two robotic opponents, Rue looks slightly surprised as they prepare another assault. Charlie appears in the doorway, clapping and remarking, "Not bad. You're sharper than before." Rue, turning to his instructor, credits his improvement to Charlie's coaching, but Charlie humbly states he didn't teach him much, pointing out that Rue has only visited the training hall a few times anyway. The instructor observes that normally someone with Rue's physique couldn't handle two training bots, so quickly, noting the enhancements from the system are quite obvious. With his arms crossed, Charlie assures Rue he won't ask what happened, as that would be nosy, but then inquires why Rue came today. With a serious expression, Rue tells Charlie, "Don't say it's for training. I'm not that stupid." Charlie responds, "I told you before to listen to me," adding, "It's about Kazumi Shun, who nearly caused a disaster." He gestures for Rue to sit, saying, "Come on, sit." As Rue stands before him in the training hall, a fiery, smoke-filled cityscape is depicted while Charlie explains that Kazami nearly wrecked the entire city of Mayu. Rue asks, "What happened?" And Charlie, now seated beside him, remarks, "Shocking, huh?" He seems cool-headed, but when he snaps, it's all over. He mentions that the fight with White Robe was nothing, to which Rue agrees. "Yeah." Lighting a cigarette, Charlie notes, "White Robe was strong, the only one who's ever pushed Kazami that far." He elaborates, "The question is how he provoked Kazami, because as a result, Kazami was on the verge of losing control." Gazing out at the sunset, Charlie clarifies, "You probably heard from Shining Light that Kazami's the strongest of the 7 stars, but that's assuming he's unrestrained." The instructor, smoking, reveals with a smile, "Truth is, Kazami is the only 7-star with a limiter. If he goes all out, he turns into a mass murder machine." Rue responds, "Makes sense." An image of Kazami Shun materializes as Rue reflects that back then, the 7 stars ranks were based on power, with Nana being the strongest according to records. Yet at the same time, they said Kazami was the true strongest. Charlie, looking at Ichibaru, asks, "Isn't this what you came to hear?" Rue, with a slight pout, replies, "No." Charlie, holding a cigarette, asks if Rue's inquiry is about White Robe. Rue, his red eyes focused, confirms he wants to know White Robe's identity. Charlie's sharp eyes narrow as he states he could tell Rue, but needs a compelling reason. Rue asserts that Nana didn't die merely from a dungeon run, and that the association must have known this long ago, asking if that's sufficient reason. Charlie concedes and reveals he was planning to use Rue as bait to draw White Robe out, questioning why Rue doesn't simply back off. Rue utters Charlie's name, and Charlie remains silent for a moment as Rue accuses him of deliberately keeping him uninformed. Charlie offers to disclose the information, but warns that once Rue embarks on this path, there's no return, as it carries a high risk of death and contradicts Shining Light's wishes. He then reveals that White Robe is a member of a new, completely unknown group called Saints. Rue's eyes widen in shock as Charlie further explains that the 7 stars are now compelled to select a new member. While Charlie lights a cigarette, Rue questions the sudden inclusion of a rookie and asks if it's due to the Saints. Charlie, exhaling smoke, admits they don't know the Saints' background, but their objective is evident. He then asks Rue for his opinion on whether the Saints are targeting all Seekers or specifically the 7 stars. Charlie elaborates that either way, if the Saints wipe out all Seekers, they'll eventually face the 7 stars. Conversely, if they take out the 7 stars, the remaining Seekers are essentially nothing. While smoking, Charlie wonders how they know White Robe's code name, but not his past. Rue, seated, dismisses it, saying, "Villains always spout the same nonsense and just start preaching on their own." With a focused gaze, Rue questions if the Saints are some kind of cult that worships a shady god. Holding a cigarette, Charlie comments that pretty much every era has its share of such idiots. He then asks Rue if one of the 7 stars elected Shining Light, while Rue wonders if it's truly necessary to find a replacement for Nana so quickly, even with a Saint-level threat. A close-up shows Rue's red eyes narrowing in deep thought. A chibi Charlie, still smoking, asks if Rue thinks he's an idiot, then calls Rue a Seiskin, who could snap at any moment while another chibi listens. Looking down with his hands on his knees, Rue states that to him, Nana isn't just Shining Light of the 7 stars, but his little sister. A chibi Charlie, smiling and giving a thumbs up, remarks that's just what he'd expect from his student. Much better than a bro-con. Charlie, looking serious as he holds a cigarette, explains that the 7 stars are their nation's strongest shield and spear. If Nana's death becomes public, the country will undoubtedly descend into chaos. Looking somber, Charlie tells Rue, "That's why I'm sorry, Rue." With wide, shocked eyes, Rue questions Charlie, "Don't tell me you guys..." Charlie, looking away, firmly states, "This is the only way." He confirms that he would have told Rue regardless, while Rue angrily notes that if Nana's death becomes public, the country will descend into chaos. Charlie adds that they can no longer keep it concealed. Rue, his fist clenched and surrounded by a dark aura, deduces, "So you're planning to choose a new 7 star to take her place." He realizes that this way, the public will believe Yoko is still alive, rendering all news of her death a fabrication. Walking away from Charlie, who watches from the steps, Rue acknowledges it as a well-thought-out plan. Charlie then urgently informs Rue that the Seeker contest schedule has been moved up, explaining that several countries have formed alliances and are now targeting him. Rue, his face serious and his red eyes glinting sharply, responds, "You never intended to hear my opinion, right?" Then dropped the half-baked act. As Rue walks away down a sunlit, tree-lined path, Charlie, looking distressed, runs a hand through his hair and mutters, "I told you I hate this kind of thing." Now clad in explorer attire and holding a book, Rue stands in a vibrant, sun-drenched forest clearing, remarking, "So, this is the place." As Rue ventures deeper into verdant forest, a close-up of his Buddha shows he's reflecting internally that he cannot visit the guild for some time, acknowledging that self-training has limitations and this isolated training is his only remaining option. Examining a map, Rue internally states he paid a fortune for this intel and hopes it doesn't disappoint him. He approaches a swirling blue dungeon portal in a remote, lush landscape, noting the Daisy Trading Company's impressive ability to locate such an entrance. Firmly planting his boot on the rocky ground, he enters a dungeon. Within a cavern filled with glowing blue water and scattered stepping stones, Rue stands before another active portal. He bends down, his gloved hand picking up a small rock from the cavern floor. Ralph hurls the rock through the portal, only for it to loop back out and splash into the water before him. Suddenly, a monstrous shark-like creature with glowing red eyes and rows of sharp teeth erupts from the water. Seeing the creature's tail submerge, Rue realizes that his plan to train here is ruined, chalking it up to his bad luck. Now with light blue hair, Rue dashes across the stepping stones as multiple sharp, golden-tipped projectiles shoot up from the water around him. The enormous shark lunges from the water, its massive jaws agape as Rue desperately tries to escape its attack. With a surprised expression, he pushes against the snout of the lunging shark and executes an agile flip over the water, narrowly avoiding its jaws and landing precariously on a stepping stone. Rue remarks, "First time I've ever found fish this annoying." Suddenly, a multitude of shark-like monsters with glowing red eyes erupt from the water, surrounding him. One of the monstrous fish lunges directly at Rue, its massive jaws wide open. Rue retaliates with a powerful punch to the creature's head, causing a splash. He manages to leap to the relative safety of the rocky bank, his hand touching the ground. Standing on the edge, he says, "Good thing amphibians don't show up in E-rank dungeons. Otherwise, there's no way I could handle this many." Just then, two enormous columns of water erupt violently behind him, catching him off guard. Three of the shark-like creatures, now revealed of clawed limbs, emerge onto the land from the water spouts. Startling Rue, looking completely stunned, he exclaims, "Whoa, you've got to be kidding me." As the amphibious creatures advance, a large cloud of dust and debris erupts from the forest floor, indicating a powerful impact or explosion. Rue slides to a stop on the damp ground, his clothes slightly dirted from the encounter. Surrounded by the defeated amphibious monsters, he sits and reflects, "If I'd been dragged underwater, I'd be the one dead." Using his skill on one of the bipedal fish monsters, Rue acquires multiple instances of bipedal fish meat X1 and bipedal scales X1 through a series of blue holographic notifications. His gloved hand holds up a peculiar glowing red eyeball-like pearl, still dripping with moisture. A chibi, looking unimpressed, holds the pearl and muses. They say pearls from aquatic monsters are good for your skin, but who would use something this gross? Walking through the dark, overgrown forest, Rue considers that getting 2 pearls from all those monsters isn't bad, as even bosses have low drop rates for rare items, which is about what he expected. He approaches a clearing where a large, luminous butterfly rests upon a glowing lotus flower in a murky pond. A close-up reveals the beautiful iridescent blue and black butterfly, as Rue internally notes. So the boss here is a butterfly. He considers that butterfly types tend to be deadly, with their scales often causing hallucinations, and the real danger might be their poison. Deciding to try luring it out, he throws his sword toward the butterfly resting on the lotus. The sword pierces the butterfly, pinning it to the flower. As blue liquid splatters, ripples spread across the surface of the murky water, hinting at something beneath. A large glowing yellow crystal, seemingly the true boss, emerges from the water, surprising Rue as the defeated butterfly lies nearby. His gloved hand swiftly grips the hilt of a smaller knife. Ralph hurls the knife, wondering if the butterfly was just for show and if the fish swarm was the real threat. The thrown knife strikes the large yellow crystal, causing it to shatter into multiple pieces. Observing the destroyed crystal and the pinned butterfly, Rue thinks this might actually be a lucky day. He reflects with a slight smile that if it had been a real boss, he might have died, reaching for the sword, pinning the butterfly, which is now dissolving into blue particles. Rue's red eyes widen in sudden alarm and unseen development. Sometime later, a silver-haired Rue is seen jogging briskly through a sunlit park. Kuji spots him on the path, waving and calling out his name. Rue approaches, asking, "What's up? If you didn't have business, is it bad to come see me?" Kuji, smiling, pats Rue's shoulder and remarks, "No way. You're getting stronger by the day." He adds, I've been looking for a reliable team, so I thought I'd introduce you. Rue responds with simple, thanks, as Kuji assures him, no problem, I'll send you their contact info later. However, Kuji's expression then turns serious as he inquires, but why are you collecting the corpses of dungeon bosses? A narrative panel explains that with the changing dungeon patterns, sales had ceased. So Rue was asking Kuji for leads on dungeons or boss corpses to break down. Kuji, looking concerned, presses Rue. I'm helping you this much, so at least tell me what your connection to Nana-chan is. Did you hear something? Kuji explains that there's a rumor about Nana's misfortune causing panic, as any issue with 7-star member unsettles everyone, and the changing dungeon patterns have members crowding the guild worriedly. Rue, smiling, reassures Kuji that the guild will handle it, and Nana said her mission would be over soon, suggesting they grab a meal when she's back. Kuji, looking thoughtful, says never mind, then asks Rue where he's been lately. Rue replies that he's been holed up doing intense training. With a serene smile, Rue clarifies he's been training in the dungeon. Flashbacks show him fighting a tree monster and a giant bee. Kuji, in chibi style, pats Rue's shoulder, remarking, it makes sense. No wonder Rue is looking so fit. He then says he has business to attend to and is off, to which Rue replies, yeah, see you. As Kuji walks away in the sunlit park, Rue watches him depart. With glowing red eyes and a determined expression, Rue wonders if he could take back the shining light, if he were stronger. The scene transitions to a hallway where Yasukaji is sitting dejectedly on the floor as Rue's feet approach. Yasukaji looks up, surprised, as Rue stands before him, asking, have you been waiting? Yasukaji exclaims, welcome back. In a chibi depiction, he cheerfully states, wasn't long, about 10 days. Rue, looking slightly exasperated, thinks, you really are amazing. As Yasukaji peeks in, asking, hey, can I come in? Rue, holding keys, dismissively tells him, you can leave now. Yasukaji beams, exclaiming, you're making me a teammate. Rue, looking slightly askance, inquires, are you always as friendly to everyone? Rue mentions, I was thinking about your proposal, then clarifies, if the place you want to go with me is a dungeon. Yasukaji's face falls into a dejected expression, uttering a small, hey. Rue states, sorry, I have to decline. He explains, I'm not as strong as you think. If you don't get that, then there's no point in talking. Leading Yasukaji to ask, then what should I do? Rue, arms crossed, replies, I'm not necessarily a trustworthy ally. What matters is whether you can do it. This prompts Yasukaji to question, how exactly do we cooperate? With a serious look, Rue says, I want you to sell something for me over a long period. You'll get 30%, I get 70%. He adds, I don't care how you sell it. Just one condition. Don't let anyone know I'm involved. Yasukaga agrees without hesitation. Got it. I'm good at business. Then Rue adds, you're the 7 stars, brother, so if needed I can help with training plans, but I guess you won't need it. Yasukaga leans in very close to startled Rue and says with enthusiasm, I do. Rue pushes his face away and says, that's all then. I'm busy. Go home already. A wall clock is shown close up and a speech bubble appears. Here's my contact. We'll talk details later. With a cheerful sparkle, Yasukaga tells Rue will be waiting for the message as he walks off. 7 days later, Rue is driving through sun-drenched countryside. He notes that the dungeon info he bought from Daisy Trading is pulling him further into remote areas. The car follows a dirt road, and Rue reflects that he purchased data on 3 E-rank dungeons, all isolated and spread apart. A worn wooden building stands under the bright sky. Rue thinks about how good dungeon locations are in high demand and hard to come by. Daisy Trading has been offering fewer lately due to shifting dungeon patterns. Leaning against his car, Rue hopes Kazami's younger brother will bring good news. His earlier inquiries didn't yield satisfying answers. Now, with light blue hair and explorer gear, Rue stands before a swirling blue dungeon portal in a bamboo grove. A green serpent lunges from the brush, but Rue slices it cleanly with his sword. As green fluid sprays from the severed snake, Rue, slightly puzzled, questions why a snake is even here. Animals usually avoid dungeons and shouldn't be near the entrance. His red eyes glowing with concern, Rue realizes that if the shifting dungeon patterns are causing this, it means serious trouble. They have to move fast. Stepping into the portal with focused red eyes and blue hair, Rue enters the dungeon. Inside, a sunlit bamboo forest stretches before him. Holding his dagger, he notes the scenery looks like the real world, but the passage of time feels different. Suddenly, a sharp green bamboo shoot crashes into the ground beside him. Another strikes his back, and he cries out. Sprinting forward, a green snake monster with glowing eyes lunges at him. Blue energy crackles around its fangs as it strikes, but Rue catches its tail midair. Swinging the creature around, he blocks another bamboo strike with its body. As he runs, more snakes and bamboo shoots appear, their numbers rising fast. He stops briefly, taking in the overwhelming horde of hissing snakes and rising bamboo. Realizing he's outmatched, he spots a cave entrance ahead. With his sword ready, he mutters, "We wasted a lot of good materials." Then he notices a figure in the distance, long black hair, robes fluttering. His eyes narrow. Humanoid monsters? In an E-rank dungeon? He questions silently. A text panel appears. Humanoid monsters are the rarest type, with fewer than 100 confirmed encounters. Everyone who has met one has died. The long-haired figure turns and softly says, With pointed ears and a piercing golden eye, the humanoid creature looks directly at Rue and asks, "Have we met before?" Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. Feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts or suggestions. If you want to stay updated on our latest uploads, click the notification bell icon. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos popping up on the screen right now? If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really means a lot. Peace.